We do have a quorum here. Since the first part of the meeting is going to be basically information given to us regarding the senior center, but that's sort of a upfront meeting first, I guess. Then we'll come back into our regular meeting. So if we can start, if you want to go ahead, who wants to start with that? Okay.
We have just an introduction. Okay. We have our team here tonight from Northeast Collaborative Architects, Ray Giannetti. Giolito, thank you. I'll get that by the time the job's done. And Michael Segan with Richter and Segan, who's the landscape architectural component of the team.
Right.
So with that, they have a couple of concepts for the Simsbury Meadows.
Basically what we want to do is we have been meeting off and on with a number of people, and what we've asked the architects to do at this point is kind of come up with a conceptual and talk to each one of the committees that are going to be involved down at the PAC Center, i.e. the PAC group, and then the dog pound people, and the Board of Selectmen goes from here to the Board of Selectmen. But what I wanted to do is they have come up with some conceptual they're proposing and giving and showing to the PAC group and to the dog pound people, and of course here. And I thought we should get kind of acquainted as to what's going on first before they move on further. And basically what they're doing tonight is not official, it's not over yet, it's just what they've done so far and where they're at. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ray.
Ray Giolito, Northeast Collaborative. Well, as Mr. Ostap said, we've had a number of meetings. We have developed a space program. This has been reviewed with social services. I think you folks might have gotten one electronically. This is updated as of last Friday from our meeting with the PAC board, and after some comments from social services and the senior component. Then once the program was done, we as the architects have developed what I'll call a preliminary blocking plan, just to make sure that what the program says and the space as it could potentially be laid out would work. And that enabled us to get a footprint and a preliminary roof plan to Richter and Segan, so that we could start to develop the site plan to see how the building would fit on the site. We went back and forth a couple of times, massaged the plan a little bit, and Mike Segan has an overall view of, I think, maybe three and a half options tonight, something like that. So I'll turn it over to Mike. He'll start with existing conditions so we get familiar with the plan, and then we'll go through the various options.
Thanks, Ray. As Ray mentioned, we've been back and forth with him in terms of shaping a building that would fit here. Our task is really to work with the area, and I think our objectives have been twofold. One is to incorporate a senior community center in this area in a way that's compatible with everything else that's going on there, the park, the dog park, the trails, the fields, the athletic fields, and probably most important, the performing arts center, because of the activity that generates. And so we've met a number of times with PAC, going through what many of their requirements are, understanding, oops, there we go, thank you. Understanding what requirements they have here in terms of both for events, but also staging for the events, so we understood that as well. There is a requirement for X amount of spaces, or they have at least presently a certain amount of parking spaces, and part of that goal was to maintain those parking spaces at a minimal disruption to those, but basically keep all the operations that PAC needs to go through functioning and not interfere with that. At the very end, you'll see some comparisons of when you see the new senior center location. The second goal was to minimize disruption from an environmental point of view. Everything, it's kind of hard to see with these colors, but in the blue, these are all wetland areas. Now, really deeper into the meadows is probably the highest value wetlands, but our goal is to minimize any disruption to the wetlands and concentrate the development related to the senior center in the areas that are already developed, and certainly not go into undeveloped areas. There might be some edge impacts. One of the sort of side goals is to make sure the total impact to federal wetlands, which most of these are, It's less than 5,000 square feet, which we can avoid any Army Corps permits and deep permits as well, so which could last for months and sometimes even years. So those are the basic objectives as we've approached this. As I mentioned, we've met with PAC to really get a good understanding of how they function and use the place. Next. This is where the proposed community center is in this scheme, and you'll see in the other schemes as well. It's if you know the area back there, it's the lawn area that's right adjacent to the dog park. We've maintained all the circulation through the site. The main entry into the park is here, the playground over here. So as you round the bend, you align right up with the front door, the porte-cochere drop-off to the senior center. So it's a nice welcoming location in terms of entering into the site. We've maintained, again, all the functions around the Performing Arts Center. And keep in mind that this will all be area for the senior center for 95% of the time. It's just that 5% when there's a performance and setting up for a performance where there's potential operational issues that have to be addressed. So most of the time, there's nothing happening out here. So now you have a really vibrant function going on there. The dog park is off to this side. The circulation, the secondary back road becomes a little more formalized and widened. We're able to add parking here in a non-wetland area without impacting the wetland area. So the net parking here, which was very important to PAC, we actually have an increase of 10 spaces. So we've been able to do this in a way so as not to impact the parking for the performances. We also have formalized handicap parking area, which is not formalized now for PAC, and it meets all current standards. So I think in terms of the functioning, and you'll see at the very end, I'll talk a little more specific about that at the very end. So we also show the barn storage structure moving back a little bit and the opportunity to expand that a little bit too, and that's part of PAC's plan, is to increase storage. The enlargement shows the spaces right around the building itself. Again, the front porte-cochere is here. The building is mostly one story, but has a two-story component to it. That helps us stay compact and allows us to fit into the space. There's an opportunity as you get up into that second story, the views out towards the ridge line really start to open up more. A little selective pruning here could even help that even more. To the west side is an outdoor deck or patio that could be used for both senior and community activities. There's also a small patio here on the dog park side of this. And then taking a wetland and creating, I think, a much stronger amenity, possible boardwalk, birdhouses, and native habitat plantings to upgrade the wetland area and create a scenic and, I think, attractive view off the west side of the building itself. So that's I think, a good overview of this concept, how it works. I'm going to talk a little bit more, again, at the end about how it interfaces from an operational point of view with PAC. Next. The next scheme is virtually the same up front here, and all these interactions. And by the way, I should mention, there would be a new walk connecting down to Ironwood Boulevard, down through here. You can also come across crosswalk to connect to PAC from the senior center, as well as connect back down to Iron Horse. And we also have walk connections down that secondary access drive as well. So there's really good pedestrian connections both around the whole facility and back down to Iron Horse. This scheme, the big difference is we flipped the dog park with the parking. The parking in the first scheme was down in this area. It's about 300 feet from the senior center. By flipping the two, the parking now becomes much closer, much more convenient to the senior center. So it's just a second option. We get about the same amount of spaces on either scheme. Packed like this because the parking is also closer to the Performing Arts Center too. So that's a big difference. You want to go in, just grade the next one. It's just a little bit closer. You can see it a little bit better. You can see how the parking is right up the back here. And as in a number of senior centers we've worked on, there's a front door, there's also people, there's other functions inside the building. This gives another access way into the building. When there's activities going on in front here, again, I'll talk about at the end, I think you'll see probably the back side used in those, that 5% of the time, a little more often. Handicap parking in all the schemes is up here, so you don't really have to cross any aisles. You can come right into the building off this side. It's convenient from that point of view. Next. And then B1 is a slight variation on B. What it does is it says, okay, let's anticipate, let's not box ourselves in here. Let's anticipate that maybe in the future, it might be 5 years, 10, 20 years, you might want to expand the senior center. Because it's so tight in here, how would we do that? So if you want to go actually into the enlargement, what we've done is reduce the size of this parking lot and showed where an addition could happen. We've been doing this more and more often on buildings like this, so you do anticipate additions. We oftentimes get called into projects for expansion, and you really back yourself into a corner where you don't have that option. So this allows us to do that. Now what we could do is actually build the parking in here initially because of the importance of maximizing our parking, and take out the parking later on. This scheme shows where you have minimal disruption to your physical improvements to add an addition later on. So those are the three schemes. If you go to the last one, Ray, I wanted to end with this one because this shows around the Performing Arts Center. Again, we work with PAC in terms of what requirements they have, the types of equipment. If you've been to performances, you know what's going on back here with the trailer trucks, the trailers that are backing up the facilities for the program, buses that in many cases parked here. What this shows is occasionally the day of a performance, usually the day of a performance, occasionally the day before, they will set up here. They will actually set up barricades here, and we still have the access, the front door, the parking in front open to the senior center, and you might see a little more shift to the back side just for that few hours or period of time where there's an overlap. So again, this shows that whole area is staged and ready, getting set for performance, and how the two would interact from an operational point of view. So I think we fit the building in here. I think it does function with the other things that are there. It actually, I think, creates a nice synergy with the play area, the Performing Arts Center. There's been some discussion of activities here that would relate to that. We had a good meeting with members of PAC. And I think the scheme is sensitive, that it focuses on areas that have been already developed, very little maybe edge impact on the wetlands, and we hope to leave those edges in better condition than they are now if this project moves forward. That's a quick overview.
Can you briefly describe what we talked about as far as what the building would be? 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, 4?
Sure. It will be a 2-story building. There are 2 major spaces on the second floor, which would be the fitness room, and there's a 1,000 square foot activity room with a dividing wall. We put that on the second floor so we don't have to get into a huge amount of structure on the first floor to support a second floor above. And what it allowed us to do, we had a maximum width of this building to fit it in here of 115 feet. We came in a little bit below that. The length was a little bit more flexible. So so again, it'll be the main multi-purpose room, which is 4,000 square feet. Just because the room is that size, it's going to be a much higher ceiling, so we'll say that's 1.5 stories, but that's one big volume. So in this particular plan, it's on the south side. As we started our discussion, we'll probably flip it around to the west side so you get a view of the wetlands. Again, the plan isn't, it hasn't even been shown yet, but we came up with some concepts. And then, of course, you need toilets on both floors, you need stairwells, an elevator, and the front of the building, which would be all of the administrative and the lobby and the small gathering areas, that would most likely be 1 story. So the 2-story section is really right in the middle.
But
And-
basically what you did was you fit your program in with what you talked with reference to the senior center people,
Yes, yes,
as well as the program that came out of this
yes.
performing arts.
Yes, and as we start to develop this, one of the things that the town engineer has been saying to me more than once, which I think is very appropriate, is we're going to look to see if there's a way that a portion of the building could potentially be open and a portion closed for activities for PAC, for example. A reception in the large meeting hall, but people don't have access to upstairs. So that's going to come into play as we start to develop this and vet this through the various organizations that will use it.
So the plan now next is to talk with the people that run the dog park?
Correct. Jeff is trying to set something up possibly this week.
And then you'll come back to us with more detail in reference to the building, so we can then make the proposal to the town Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
That's the program. Any questions, rough
Yeah, I
questions?
have a question. How many elevators will you be putting in?
Just one.
Just one. There's no possibility of getting one in the back? You got a lot of parking back there. If there's a way they could come in.
The elevators right now basically would probably be in the middle of the building, so the building isn't that long.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, 2 elevators would be very
Okay,
extravagant
that's
for a
fine. You
building
know,
this
I
size.
know that.
Yeah.
We've always had problem with elevators. That's why I bring it up, you know.
Any other general questions?
Yeah, does the dog park lose any square footage when you move it? Does that
It
make
does.
sense?
It's about 20% smaller than it is now.
Have,
But,
But
But-
there is some opportunity to expand the area showing right now, but
all right.
it's,
and not only that, but it also puts parking right down in front of it, you can see
Yeah.
on this concept
Yeah.
B.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask if you asked anybody from the dog park.
Well, we're
about-
trying to meet with them this week.
Okay.
Yeah. And another advantage is, you'll see towards the bottom of the program, the plan is to have toilet facilities accessible from the exterior. So the portalets will go away for the dog park folks and for anybody using any of the facilities down there. Of course, it's up to Parks and Rec or whomever to figure out how long those are open, but there'll be public toilets that you don't have to go into the building to use.
Any other general questions? Okay, basically what we want to do is get this out to the public, so the public can see it via the TV. And any questions that they have, public could have, can get back to the Public Building Committee. We meet every first Monday of the month. They're welcome to come back at public audience, make any expressions. Hopefully next month, you'll come back with more detail, that we can make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, which way you intend to go. Okay. Hearing that, I hear a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Good. Give us 5 minutes and we'll come back with our regular meeting. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.